Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here, and we got a fun one here today. We're talking with somebody who is I don't want to oversell, because I feel like then people are expecting maybe, I don't want to set the bar too high, but a very funny
Oh my God.
comedian who has become a good friend of the podcast. He was with us in LA for the live show, but you can catch him doing comedy all over the place, including he's going to be performing at the Netflix is a Joke upcoming event in May. And of course, you can see soon much more of him all over the place. It's Zach Zucker. Zach, how are you?
Oh my God. Hello, Rob. This is a dream. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here and to be able to be in a space where I can really let loose and talk about something I love so much.
Finally, you can let loose. You also let loose also as Jack Tucker, and we can explain all of your
I would
personas
love
along the
to.
way here to the RHAP audience. So, I guess, could you tell us a little bit more about you and your comedy for anybody
Yeah.
who is uninitiated so far in the RHAP audience as they get to know you
So
today?
for sure. And I'd be willing to say of the millions, maybe even billions of listeners to this podcast network,
Billions.
I would say maybe 4 to 5, not billion, but singular people might be aware of me. So hello to all of you. If I know anything from being at this wonderful Survivor 50 LA event that I was at a few weeks ago, I can tell that this audience, they're a very racial crowd. They're very, they love to go crazy and wild. So I promise to bring that today.
Yes.
And you're in good hands. I'll touch all of them. I'll touch everything.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. So everybody is, pumped up for the idea of season 50. Maybe
Yes.
that some of the things that so far in season 50 haven't landed as much as well as we've wanted them to do. How are you feeling about Survivor 50?
I think not to parrot like everything that everybody else has said, but obviously I am thrilled to see returning players. As somebody who for so many reasons loves this show, to be able to just dive back in with people that you know so well, to see some like top tier gameplay and some constant flipping where you're not sure which way the vote's going to go or who's working with who. And I know there's a lot of elements that go into this, but just to be able to like not have to go, wait, do I have to care about this person? Are you going to be around for a while? Are you getting an edit today because you're going home? But to just sit in with these people, I am loving that. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely loving that.
Zach, what's your background with Survivor? Have you been an OG Survivor fan? Did you pick it up recently?
God, I thought about like lying and making up an elaborate OG story where I was like, yeah, ever since I was 6, I picked up the torch and I went to the remote and I pressed play. But I came later in life to Survivor. I had always been aware of it. But I was really sports and comedy growing up, and then I kind of high school musicaled into theater and clown and performance.
Hmm.
And then my really good friend, my best friend, Good Maddie, shouts to Good Maddie. She is a huge Survivor head. And a few years ago, it was Christmas. I was with her in Paris, and she put on a season, and I was like, okay, I didn't expect this to be this. This is like a lot more fun and engaging and interactive than I would have thought just from like the base kind of periphery knowledge of it. And I got sucked in. I think my first season was 42. And I remember watching, Marianne and Jonathan and seeing the arc of Marianne was like, oh my God, where you're like, they kind of put her out. And you're like, oh, this person might be too much. And then you're like, hold on a minute. She's actually really smart. And then she pulls off some incredible moves. And then she obviously has that secret idol at the end that she doesn't tell anybody about. And you're like, oh, this girl's going to win the whole damn thing. And to see kind of a mini David Goliath moment in between that with her and Jonathan I just felt such fun storytelling and such fun character work. And then I just went backwards from there. And I think I saw Pearl Islands pretty early on. I saw Amazon pretty early on. I saw Heroes and Villains pretty early on. And just seeing, these eclectic characters and individuals play was like, it was mind blowing to me, especially in a time where I feel like TV and entertainment overall is kind of at a low. Legacy media is kind of at its worst. And I feel like the garbage you see online is at an all time output. And so to see something that finally I felt like resonated with me was a wonderful surprise, and I've almost exclusively watched Survivor probably every day ever since.
You watch it every day.
Almost, it's like if I need something like when I want to focus, I will focus. If I need something in the background, I love to have it in the background. I feel like this. I want to get into this part later of like how I
Yeah.
feel like I've used what I've learned from it in my life, but like, yeah, it's comforting. It's enjoyable. I love to tune in and tune out. It's not just background food. I would not dare to disgrace the show in this way, but it
Yeah.
does make me feel comfortable to have it in there while I'm living my life.
Okay. So I want to get into your background a little bit more. And
Yeah.
of course, we'll talk about all of your survivor thoughts here today. But your stand-up comedy is very interesting and it is much different. It's very meta than almost anything else that I've ever seen before. You mentioned going to France. I know that you
Yes.
also have this training that you trained in France to be a clown.
That's true. I very much like every Jewish kid from the suburbs, grandparents' worst nightmare. I ran away to France and went to a clown school, and then have effectively been in the circus for the last like 12
Yes.
years. And yeah, so I studied at a clown school called École Philippe Gaulier with this French clown master named Philippe Gaulier and his wife Michiko Miyazaki. And the whole practice, the whole art form is like how to enjoy to be bad and how to be your best idiot and to teach the audience to laugh of you, to laugh of everything that you have. And it's based on the idea that like if you have pleasure in your performance and pleasure in your life and you approach everything from this lightness, and you can yeah, truly wear this failure like your body of armor. Well, everyone's good at being good. And so if you could be good at being bad, it's never bad. And you're always at least watchable. And if you're at least watchable, it's entertaining. And then from there, you can learn how to be funny. But that comes later.
Yes.
But it teaches you how to just, I think be able to release tension and kind of always meet the room where they're at. And I can't imagine my life any other way. And it really hits me sometimes where like I had this premiere last night that Brandon was at, and I had 250 rubber chickens there, and I've made that order multiple times in my life, and that's something most people I don't think have to go through, but I've done that a lot.
So you've ordered 250 rubber chickens
Yeah,
multiple times
yeah.
and but is it too hard to transport them from city to city or do you go through
Oh,
them?
yeah. So that's the thing is I've got a stable in New York, a stable in LA, and a stable in London, and they live there and they're loud. And if
Mhm.
you open that suitcase or you open the door at the wrong time when you're, maybe in a disagreement creatively or personally, and you hear that "Wah!" like this, it's either the funniest thing in the world or it only infuriates whoever you're talking to a little bit more.
Yes. What's the going rate for a rubber chicken and when you buy them in bulk?
So right now on Amazon, I think they're like, I think it's like 35 bucks for 45 rubber chickens. So it's a
Okay.
pretty
That's a
good
pretty
deal,
good deal. Pretty good deal. You
You're at
know,
90
that
cents a chicken.
right. And that's like merch also. So yeah, that's a
It
good
is. I
pretty good.
handed them out to everybody yesterday, and I've started to see stories on the internet today of people using them as dog toys, using them as
Mhm.
decorations. And like, for me, if I can get, 2 years of jokes out of 90 cents, I mean, that's a pretty good return on the investment right there.
Pretty good ROI.
The
Yes.
shelf, yeah,
So
they're huge ROI and shelf life for the chicken.
do you know that Stephen Fishback also went through I mean, certainly not to the degree that you did, but also went through clown training?
Are you serious? Where? Do you know where?
I don't know where, I have to ask him, but I know that that was something that he did at one point in time.
That rules. That rules. I,
Mhm.
I think the only other person I knew before I started to do this was like Steve-O from Jackass went to a more traditional circus, like yeah,
All the
that
Steves
type.
did it.
Yeah, it's the Steves did it. It's kind of a Steve thing.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I no, I had no idea. If I have the pleasure of seeing him ever again or meeting him, I would love to ask him about this because it's a small community and we spread around the world. You kind of know where everybody is, or at least you're two rubber noses away from the next clown. The connections are small.
Yeah.
But that would be I would love to see him clowning. We can get Fishback on any of our shows. He's always welcome to.
So I think you were getting to this in talking about your training to be a clown, in learning to be bad and embracing that, and then the funny comes later. So can you describe to the audience what your stand-up comedy is like for anybody who
Yeah.
hasn't seen it before?
So I primarily perform as a character, which is my alter ego called Jack Tucker, which sounds like a much more believable name than Zach Zucker. And I tell people sometimes that Zach is actually my stage name. My real name is Tony Baloney, but I'm actually Spanish and my name's Antonio Baronio. And I have a whole separate routine there. But the whole gag is like the whole point of how I work is what could be the stupidest thing I could possibly do? How many times can I step in a bucket of shit and enjoy it over and over and over where I keep planning like I'm doing this, but I keep pretending I don't mean to, but it's obvious I've done this, where you in the crowd are going, I really can't believe he did that again. And you're like,
Mhm.
surely he's done. Then you do another one. You're like, oh my God, he's still going. And you're starting to laugh. Some people are cracking up and you're kind of like, all right, I don't know if I really like this. But then as it keeps going, you're like, all right, I guess you can't say he's not committed to it. And it's just, we talk about this idea from coming from underneath. If you can win something and be cool and like spike down a joke in the crowd and be like a cool guy, it's like, well, no one wants to see somebody win. That's not so fun to just see somebody who's like kind of being braggadocious or bravado. It's more fun to see the idiot, which again is a non-derogatory term for clown. Idiot, stupid, bizarre, dumb. Like those are the nicest things you could say. And so if you can come from underneath, and I guess in this clown theory, if you can win a joke, then you can come from underneath and lose a joke and keep that game up in the air by being stupider than what is in front of you. So if you can keep that confusion going, some of the clown masters of our generations have been like the Sacha Baron Cohens, the Kristen Wiggs, the Will Ferrells, Mr. Bean, all these like really fun physical. They've got that like special light in their eye where it's like, how long can you stretch out this stupid thing that's happening? That is my goal is I will go forever. And ideally the clown like will never stop. If the crowd is there and they're laughing, they'll keep going. And if they're not laughing, they'll do everything they can to get them laughing again.
Something I'm really fascinated about, and I love to talk about this idea of the alter ego because I think
Hmm.
that it's so powerful, and I think that so many people that have been very successful, both certainly outside of Survivor, but also in the game of Survivor, I think have been able to tap into this idea of the alter ego, where it's sort of freeing, where you are wearing a mask and playing this character, but I think in
100%.
doing that you have a lot more freedom and hey it's you're able to separate yourself from like hey I'm able to fail potentially or that it wasn't me, it was that person, it was that character that did those things, or if there's any sort of failure then that wasn't necessarily the real me. Do you find that that
Yeah.
allows you to be much more free in your comedy?
This is what I wanted to get into on this because again, this art form is so stupid, but I hold it with the utmost like love and philosophical importance, and to be the modern day court jester with the jester's privilege is my dream. That's what I aspire to be, and through that, I think is this alter ego thing that you're talking about, which I would love to hear about how you feel when you play. Whether it was playing Traitors or playing Survivor, if you feel
Mhm.
you tap into this or there's different versions, because I think that's totally it. If you can change your mentality, I struggle to perform and make decisions as myself. I think I'm funny. Like if we're just hanging out, I can be funny. But if you were telling me as Zach to go on stage, I struggle to maybe like land on my full point of view. But if I can get something which is ultimately still me, whether it's a physical change or a wardrobe or just, even just a voice or a piece of music, then I can trick myself into freeing myself to play a bit more. And I'm still unlocking all of the skills or knowledge that I have. But yeah, you're getting out of your own way mentally where like you said, I'm not maybe necessarily thinking about not the consequences of my actions, but like I'm able to just kind of move forward in a way that feels true to whatever this persona is. And in these types of games and these types of performances, that's the most important thing you got to do is get out of your own way and be able to just kind of follow this. So, oh man, I didn't even do you feel you have stuff like that when you've played before?
So I have learned a lot more about this recently. And I feel like that when I look back and I think about some of the times that I've had success, especially in my Survivor the Amazon, I do think that in some ways that there was an alter ego that I was at that particular point in time, but I didn't have a name for it. I think that some of the
Ask
better
if you had like a
examples
label for it.
I really come to learn a lot more about this over the years. But I think a great example that you could look back to is Parvati talked about in her book that she was retiring her persona of the Black Widow. And you can tell that it's something that when she went to go play Survivor, the thing that she had success was this idea of becoming the Black Widow version of Parvati.
Mm.
And she really had a lot of power in that and a lot of magnetism in that. And it's something that she was hanging up after her win in Australian Survivor versus the world. But when we're looking at Survivor 50 in particular, I think that the idea of Rizzo versus Rizgod, I think, is an
Yes.
area where I think that we are seeing where when this, mild mannered kid becomes Rizgod. He is able to tap into
100%.
some things that maybe you would not expect from the just young man who has come to Survivor.
Well, I mean, I think you nailed it with him. I mean, obviously, you have the earlier versions like Boston Rob. That is a persona. I mean, obviously that it just to even call yourself you have this coach. That's another persona. I feel like other people have done it more um like maybe subtly where like I think JT's games between his first, second, and third season, he at least tried something different every time. And you could tell it was always from the same nucleus, but you're like watching this person play with different approaches. You have people who can play the same variation of their approach, obviously like a Sandra and it's like you could always be, hey, anybody but me, but it's like, I'm always going to go in there and like stir the pot and stir shit around, but I'm going to do it from a different way every time. And Rizzo, man, he's the perfect one for me right now, where he was someone where, yeah, of course, I enjoyed watching him in 49. Of course, it was hard for me to avoid the spoilers and know that him and Savannah weren't going to be on 50 anyways, and like I kind of knew that was going to happen. And as the list came out, and there's a lot of people that I wish were on the series, and I think there's 50 other amazing candidates who could have been on the season. And I'm like, damn, they gave two to these people from this season that we haven't seen yet. I feel like that boy is stepping
Mhm.
up right now, and his entertainment value is high. And you know, whether or not like I've been loving all the memes or the things online of everyone being like Rizzo being like, I'm the king, I've got an idol and I'm nailing it. And it's like, brother, everybody kind of just gave this to you. It fell into your lap. However, it's how you sell it and it's how you spin it. And he's undeniably playing a great game. And he's secured the trust of the Black Widow's best friend. And if you got Cirie on your side and you got Ozzy on your side, if I'm going out to play Survivor for the second time, does it get better than that? And you got
Yeah.
Colby too. Like, I mean, you have to feel good if you've got three of the greatest legends being like, I trust you. you know?
Yeah. I think that this idea with the alter ego, I think with this returning player season, also, I think it's so fun because I think that everybody is kind of coming back knowing what their alter ego superpower
Oh,
is.
it's
Where I
so
think in these
fun.
first time player seasons, and I'm sure for the show, in some ways, it's like, oh, we like that this is the authentic person. But I think that these returning players come back with a little bit of this armor, and this armor is also allowing them to play bigger and knowing who they are. Where Cirie, if you saw her and spent time with her in real life, she's not necessarily the gangster in an Oprah suit that she becomes when she's Cirie on the show. And Ozzy is somebody also who I think comes back, and he's somebody who has talked about that he's coming back as a different alter ego this time,
As
that he's coming
Oscar.
back as Oscar. And now I'm putting on this different alter ego that's different, but you still see that the original alter ego is still in there
Well, it's a
somehow.
fascinating. I think maybe you guys have talked about this in a few episodes. Like, it's fascinating because everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people had the intention or objective to play in a different way, to play different how they have in the past. Whether it's
Mhm.
Coach saying I'm Coach 4.0, it's Ozzy saying I'm Oscar, it's Joe kind of being like I got burned, I can't do this again, and it's funny. I think it's a lot of the guys outwardly saying that they're going to be playing differently, and I think a lot of the women are just doing it. But the boys are out there really kind of puffing their chest and being like, "This is it," and then something happens, and immediately it's like, "Well, yeah, you can kind of like change your approach, but you can't necessarily always change who you are in this way or what this brings out in you." And to see them all, I mean, almost immediately in episodes 1 and 2 with Oscar and Benjamin Wade, if you will, go immediately back to Coach and Ozzy, and you're like, oh yeah, I mean this is what we come here for, and this is what I love about Survivor is that it just pulls this out. Like you hear Jeff say it's a social experiment so much, and at a certain point it becomes like, okay, I'm a bit numb to hearing this, but then you do zoom out and see these moments, and you're like, this is a social experiment. You're putting these people here with these pre-existing relationships and this history, whether it's their own personal history, their interpersonal history, and you're watching it play out in real time. And I'm sure there's some element that comes up for the camera, but it doesn't feel like it. Like these people mean this and they care about this. And it's so fun to watch. I can't, I love it so much, Rob.
I can feel your passion for it. You're so excited talking about this.
I am. I am. I've done a lot of comedy podcasts in my life. And I'll tell you, I've never been nervous or really excited for any of them. And this is the one where I was like, when Brandon asked me, I was like, are you kidding me? oh my God, like, what do I wear? What do I do? Do I got to watch I know I
And
watched
this is
last
what
week's
you pick.
episode. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
A Bo Jackson t-shirt. To be fair, I was named, my middle name is Bo, so I was named after him. And to be honest, I did wear this last night. So I am still in last night's outfit.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Tell me, at this point, we're like in the middle of the season right now. I think it literally is like the going into the halfway point.
Yeah.
Who do you feel like has the edge right now going into the back half of Survivor 50?
I was hoping to maybe say a different name, but I do feel like Rizzo has an edge right now. I mean, I'm kind of sniffing a top tier performance from him. And, it's tough. I'm trying not to read into having seen, every season and seen a few of them multiple times and having, been on the subreddits and being in the community and listening to you
Yes.
guys. You can start to pick up like, okay, I'm starting to see somebody's getting a specific type of edit, but I think they've done a really good job this year. Again, there's the whole other editing parts that are 100% true of like, it feels like there is a definite disparity between the people getting time and not. And then there is
Yeah.
also the other truth to it where I feel like, I mean, the same, essentially, Christian, Emily, and Ozzy's tribes have gone to tribal every single time. And so I understand when that is the focus point or the focal point of the last back third of the episode, you got to spend a lot of time with the people going to tribal council.
Mhm.
So I'm like, there's people like Tiff who I've not seen as much of, but I'm like, are you hiding something? Like,
Yeah.
does she, do you feel that way when you watch? Is it hard? Are you able to separate yourself from the insider info that you know of
It's
these?
really hard, and I try so hard to have, like, cognitive dissonance so much with the edit reading, and I really do try to convince myself some things that I think are at least partially possible, where I know that there is a disparity with, some of the people who have been so very much in our faces and over edited and people who have had lighter edits, but I also, do tell myself that there are characters specifically in the new era where they've had lighter edits in the pre-merge and their story really starts to bubble up in the
Yeah.
second half of the season. Now, I don't know how many of those people have gone on to win the game, but there certainly have been, when you think of Genevieve in her first season, she sort
Yeah.
of like had a very slow start, Lindsay in Survivor 42, your first season, was hardly
Hmm.
seen in the pre-merge and became a pretty big character in the post merge. You have people who had kind of wacky edits who go on to win, like Erica and Gabler. So I just try to like keep the possibilities open on a lot of these things.
Yeah.
I also think that it's a 24-person season, and I don't think that the editors necessarily know what to do in a
There's so
24
much.
player season. And it's also they're trying to satisfy a lot of different interests of like, okay, well, we have Coach back for the first time in 15 years. We got to give people Coach, we got to
Yeah.
give people Colby. And so you don't know necessarily how much are they trying to front load. We have this particular legend now, so let's make sure that we're showing them while we have them. So I do think that we don't necessarily know all of the factors that go into editing a Survivor 50.
I would love to think again, taking into the years, like taking into the show's history. I feel like Survivor, like, it's what's beautiful about it also is like there is an imperfection in the way that a lot of things have been handled over the years throughout it, but that is the reflection and the mirror of society. And if you really choose to believe that, then you're like, yeah, well, of course, we're growing alongside as the show grows alongside the people.
Mhm.
And you gotta think like I really try to believe that it's got to be primarily the fact that you have 24 people in 27 days and you
26.
again, yeah, 26 days. Jesus, there's barely more days than people.
Yeah.
And again, all of these people can carry a season. And like you said, yeah, I want to see Coach. I want to see Cirie. Like, obviously, like as an entertainment guy, it's like I want to know what Mike White's doing there. Like I want to see Q. I want to see
Mhm.
all these individuals. Like, and every day you're seeing your favorite person march to the town square and gets they rip their hearts out in front of you, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, it's tough. And
It's It's
Yeah.
hard, and, you know, and it's definitely it's easy to rip the show, and certainly they make it so easy sometimes,
Yeah.
but
Oh yeah.
I do believe this about the show, is that the show is not perfect. I also believe that they are trying to do the best that they can. Are they always doing the best that they can? Obviously not.
No.
But I do feel like that their heart is in the right place, and I do think that that's something. I don't think that they are trying to necessarily like get it wrong on purpose. Like I really do think that
I
they're trying
agree.
to do the best that they can, and I also do think that they do get better and grow from what they do. So it's hard. Like, is it perfect? No. Are they trying to get it right? I think so.
I think so. Look, and you know what? There is no perfect amount of drone shots before challenges that is the right amount. But I
Mhm.
appreciate that somebody in there believes that we like sometimes I get pulled out with some of the facts fast action. And then, I was rewatching like Survivor Africa the other day because I know you've had Ethan's been on a bit recently, and I've heard him on your podcast and
Yeah.
Tyson's podcast. And I was like, let me check that out again. It'd be fun. And I get to see Big Tom and, Lex and a bunch of the gang in that season. And like, I miss the simplicity in a lot of it, but it's like, you can't just keep watching the show the same way. I mean, again, what was that, 23 years ago, 22 years ago, something
Yeah.
like this? Like, it's got to change cinematically. And that's what I appreciate, in our art form. It's like, it's all about change. The moment is forever changing. And with Clown as well, it's always, you are in service of your audience. I will do whatever you guys need. And I am
In
on
the
my hands
hands of
and
the
knees with
fans.
I know, and that's my one only criticism is like there is this conspiracy part of me that's like, I don't I didn't vote for any of this. And I don't know anybody who did vote for
We
this.
say that
And it
so
doesn't
much. Yeah.
I know. And I'm like, and I don't it doesn't feel like I love the idea of in the hands and the fans, but I feel like there should have been a vote for who we want in the show because I
Mhm.
don't feel like I at first was one, I was just thrilled to see everybody back. And then I had my little critiques where I was like, oh, well, I wish this person was here. Or like, oh, they put this person here. I'm thrilled with how it was cast. It's so lovely to see everybody back. I think everyone for no fault of their own, maybe from the edits, has been pulling their weight and there was fun. Like I agree with a lot of the discourse that we kind of got like a wasted Angelina spot where like I just didn't see anything from her and maybe they just chose not to. We never know unless you're there. But like I wish she's such a fun character. I wish I got like more of her. And then what I then also realized coming to your 50 event is like these aren't characters, these are people.
Yeah,
And
people.
everyone is presented as a character to me. And so I was like, I've been to a bunch of, bullshit networking things in my life. And I was like, oh my God, do I have to be like Mr. Hollywood here today? And everyone was just completely themselves and lovely and wonderful. Like Shaheen and Brando and Kendra were so unbelievably nice to me. And Brandon was so nice to me. And everyone, and I was like starstruck meeting all these people that I know so much about. And I'm like, oh no, I've just been like voyeuristically watching you for years. Like, and what does that say about me? But but these are people.
They
First and
like
foremost,
it.
they're people. I think so. I think they did.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm fascinated to know from you as somebody who's rewatched so much of this Survivor from
Mhm.
all the old seasons, but you have this really unique perspective and vantage point. Who do you like to watch in terms of the people that are sort of like, and maybe for lack of a better term, like so bad that they're good to
Oh, I mean,
you?
I love you, Candace Billy. He's the greatest of all time.
Mhm.
That's like the single most defining moment ever. Are you kidding me? That's my guy. That's my
Really
guy right
good.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I also love like the Reams of the world. Like she went out first, right? And then was there all the way through Extinction. Was it Edge of Extinction that she was
Yep.
on? And you watch this, like that is the spirit of the clown, but also like that's like the heart of it, where it's like you watch this person who gets fucked over immediately. She is salty at everyone that comes through, but she doesn't stop taking care of everybody all the
Mhm.
way. And she keeps fighting and she tries and she like holds her grudge, but she releases her grudge and then she keeps going at it. And it's like that spirit to never give up, to keep pushing that ball up the hill. It's like, that's what you want to see from people. You don't want to see people quit. Like I do, like it is sometimes kind of funny when people get a little tummy ache and they're like, oh, I can't go on anymore. But I'm like, I don't know what it's like to be out starving
Mhm.
in the freezing rain. Like, you know, I I would like to think I could do all right on the show, but I also like I'm certain I would go out first, you know. But aside from like the people, you know, like again, like the Reams, like I love these situational moments of like the Francesca. It's like, how devastating to be called the wrong name twice by the same guy who is, you know, on another planet doing an Operation CIA FBI mission, but like to like that arc is like so deeply funny, but it's like it's devastating, you know. I like I don't wish that upon anybody, but you have to step back and crack up that you're like, God, if she goes out first again, like there's no way. And then it happens and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. um but then yeah, you go ahead,
Yeah,
I can
would you
talk about this forever.
consider playing Survivor ever?
Of course. And to me, I'm just nervous that like I think I'm a very social person. I love to connect with people. I love to fuck around. And my nightmare scenario is like, you know, I'm good friends with John Lovett, and I love him so much. And you know, I've done his show a bunch, and when I didn't even know from him, he kept it from me, and he knew I was a fan. He didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And his good friend, or one of his former employees, Caroline, she told me about this, and I was like, you got to be kidding. I mean, I remember finishing, what was it, 46, and seeing him on the promo, and I was like, is
Mhm.
that why there's not? And and for his arc, it was so deeply funny to see the way he handled being out first. And I'm just like, I feel like that's going to be me. And if that's my story, I will make it as entertaining
Yeah.
as possible. And I don't even know if I necessarily want to win the game. Of course, I want to win the game, but I want to like, if I'm in a season, I want to be not in a new era 6 split where everyone's going into 4. And then maybe every now and then we pull one over on the 4th person in the group. And it feels so calculated. Like I want to play a bit like, do you watch the Australian Survivor seasons too?
Do I watch the Australian Survivor? I happen to be very caught up on Australian Survivor.
Yes. I mean, like Luke, you know, to play some Luke style game where he's like, yeah, I just chucked the vote the wrong way just for a little bit of fun, or like, you know,
Right.
till they'll just kind of stir the pot. It's like I want to play the game, and I want it to be entertaining, and I don't want to play mathematical Survivor where everything happens the way that you would plan it. I want to live. I think I thrive
Mhm.
in the chaos a little bit and the
Yeah.
unknown of like, are we Doctor Stranging the world and putting everything in at the last minute? And is this going to happen? And I don't know if it's going to happen. And that's why I think these returning seasons are so fun, is because it's
Yeah.
so unpredictable.
Well, the Australian Survivor, which happens to be very top of mind for me right now, because I think that one of the things that I really have missed in the new era is they want these very small tribes, dangerous, fun, 6-person, nowhere to hide. And they think that they
Hmm.
feel like, okay, this is great because we'll know in every vote what everybody's perspective is. And so we're, as storytellers, this is better. But I think that with these bigger tribes, you have, as you are referencing an Australian Survivor, maybe we have a group of 10 and we don't necessarily know who everybody is in the group of 10, but for the 3 or 4 people that we deeply care about, their options are almost unlimited. And
Yeah.
there is the magic that comes out of that sometimes. I think that the return is higher than there is of, okay, we know who everybody is, and really their choices are very limited, sort of down to sort of like a binary choice of either this will happen or this will happen, where, as you mentioned, Doctor Strange, what a
Oh,
great way to describe all of this. In a tribe of 10, the possibilities and the worlds are endless. And I think that
yeah.
that as a Survivor fan is so much more fun to explore.
It's also because the fallout of it is a whole other thing. Is like, how can you patch up? I think Christian's done a pretty good job, and Emily have done good jobs patching things up in some of the tribal councils afterwards, where it's like, hey, just gotta rub your friends back and be like, hey, it was not like this, and that's a whole art form in itself. Is the
But what if
personnel
Ozzy doesn't
management.
like that? What if Ozzy is saying like, "No, no,
Yeah.
I'm not good now."
Yeah, well, then you gotta listen to him, and then you gotta go, "Hey, I'm of service of you." What if you decide for your game that it's important to have Oscar on your side so that Ozzy doesn't come out? Then you gotta placate him, and you gotta do
Mhm.
whatever you need to do. And sometimes it's so amazing to watch this gameplay happen, and then other times as a fan, I'm like, "Oh my god, they're doing my boy dirty. He's falling for it again." Like, you know, when him and Cirie linked up in the beginning, I was like, "Please, both of you, for both of your guys' sake, don't screw each other over.
Mhm.
Please promise me that you're working together." When I saw that solidify, like, my heart got to, you know, rest a bit. But like you said, if you in these larger tribes, when you have 8 to 10 people on there, you can have factions. You can have 3 factions of 3 all fighting for that single one, or all 9 of them could turn on the one, or 2 of the 3s get to come together, and you really get to see the splintering off of these relationships. And like I rewatched maybe Winners of War maybe like a few months ago, and there was a one episode where everyone's like, God, Nick just keeps butting into everybody's conversations, and you just see him keep walking in, being like, "What's up? What's going on? What are you guys talking about? What do you get?" Like those little edits like that with Aubrey as well. It's like, hey, let's have a dialogue. Like all those fun edits, like they got to be cracking up putting those things together. And I love to watch how people either shut down or open up as these people come through, and you have to then be so again, you obviously know, having played like, and then also playing Traitors too. It's got to be so different from the other side of the screen where you're like, oh my god, like what's going on here? Or again, watching you in Traitors, it's like you were right, like Rob, something is happening right now, and I'm like, there he is, and then I'm like, wait a minute, they're gonna get him, aren't they? They're gonna get him because they know this. And as a fan who loves to watch great game players play, I am I think it's an easy out to say with some of these shows that the best players get out first, and then it gives no credit to the people who make it. I don't think that's entirely true, but there is undeniably a trend where it's like, I want to see you play this game. I get bored when the great people are out at a certain point, and it allows new people to flourish. But like, I don't know. I just I get I obviously love like electric gameplay, and I love that really intricate a philosophical way to play, and the dissemination of information, and how based on what's going on, being super perceptive, you can one little tick or one little tell can affect the way that you then approach the whole rest of the night. And it's like that's what brings me to it. And I get bummed when I feel like we get shortchanged from that.
It's really hard with these shows, and I don't know if anybody has a great solve for it because you have the players who want to shine the brightest and make the biggest moves and play the hardest. And I think that often they are celebrated and shown in the edit, and there's glory that comes from that. And that's the
Mhm.
appeal where we want to be that person who's figuring it all out. Personally, I mean, that's why I wanted to be a faithful, and I wanted to be, on the Traitors. I really wanted to
You were
go
too
out there,
good.
and I wanted to shine. I sort of like wanted, I felt like I had something to prove, and I really wanted to go out there and, but it's not necessarily the right way to win the shows. And there is like a balance. And
Yeah.
I think that really, when we look at somebody, even like go back to Rizgod, where I think that in his first season, he really had it right, where he was shining in the confessionals, but kind of a little bit more mild mannered
Yeah.
and he would let people see that at tribal council. And I think it rubbed people the wrong way. But there is, I do think, a right way to play some of these things where if you can bring it to the confessional, but not show it as much to the people that are there, and then use the final tribal council to be able to say, actually, I was the one
Yeah.
doing everything. But
Yeah.
it's really a very tough thing to
Well,
calculate because
it
the
feels
jury
like
doesn't always see it.
no, and it feels like it takes a ton of discipline. Like, I feel like if you were dropped into any season of Survivor, any of these game shows, I feel like you, with the history and experience that you have, would go, okay, here's the right way to play this. But if you, like you said, I'm going to shine in my moments out here and I'll hang back here. But it's like, is that always the most fun way to play? And
Yeah.
I think I am lucky in my art form that like the most fun way to play is a lot of times at the detriment of my show, but more than the
Yeah.
show being good is it does the audience have a good time? And I think that's the thing to solve, where it's like, I want you to play the most fun version of the game you want to play, not the one that you have to feel like you have to play.
Yeah. And I kind of feel that life is too short. You should just go for it while you're
Go for
there.
it.
Maybe it'll work out. It probably won't, but do the version that has no regrets because you could play it tighter. And this was the advice that Boston Rob gave me before I went to go play on the Traitors. He's like, "Hey, Cesternino, just shut up. Don't say anything. Just talk in the confessionals. Don't sh-" And I was given advice by somebody else that they said, don't leave with your light still inside you. And that was the advice and Boston Rob, that was great advice.
Yeah,
That
of
was great
course.
advice to give to somebody, but that wasn't necessarily what I wanted because the thing is you're also at the mercy of the edit where you can play smaller and just say things in the confessional. But when you're playing smaller, there's probably as maybe some of the people in Survivor 50, maybe they say, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit more under the radar. Well, if you're under the radar, they're not necessarily inclined to, unless you have the perfect cutting remark, that a lot of times your stuff is probably going to get left
Yeah,
on the cutting room floor to the detriment of people that were a little bit more in the story and in the edit,
completely.
because they were bolder and bigger and took more chances. And so that there's a entire chance that I played it the smartest possible way, and I also wasn't seen in the show. And I think that, like, with the Traitors, for instance, like my friend Mark Ballas, I feel like that was kind of his story in the Traitors, where he played
Mhm.
incredibly smart, but it was a little bit of a safe game, and it was
Yeah.
one that he was largely left out of the overall edit.
Yeah, and it's like, look, on the opposite side, it's like there's nobody in the world who would deny that you'd rather hang out with him than Michael Rapaport. However, the man with the magic ears is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, it's
Mhm.
whether or not you like the guy, you gotta admit he knows how to talk shit, and that was so funny in that moment when he was backs against the wall, you know, letting people have it. But I think that's exactly the right way to do it. Is like, can you leave everything on the line? Do you want to do it the way that you want to do it? And it's got to be tough because for you, you're balancing a really tough uh, uh, group of people on the Traitors, which is totally separate from Survivor, where you've got people already with celebrity and returning players for sure. But like
Sure.
you've got people who are coming in with celebrity and image and ulterior motives, where it's like I'm here because I want to come back and be in the zeitgeist because I'm launching something, or like like Tiff saying like I really need this money. And then you're watching her leave, and then she gives the read of the year. It's like, y'all get what you deserve, and it clear you didn't deserve me. And I was like, get it, girl. Like, thank you. Good. And then hearing your guys' interview after that, I was like, thank God. Like, here's two awesome people that love and respect each other. And like, you don't have to be friends with everybody on the cast of everything you do. I think that's almost, I try and you got to try, but I think it's unreasonable to assume you'll all connect that way. But to see the people connect that way that you want to connect is lovely. And it's like you see the two types of people like you, where I don't know what your motivations were for this, but I've heard you say many times I wanted to feel like I had something to prove, or I felt like I had something to prove, and I wanted to prove to my audience. And it's it's so fascinating to hear you say that, because like you're already a legend in so many ways in this way. And so to see that you still have that hunger and that you have that desire to be like, oh, I got to go back out there still and show them that I got this. Like, can you ask for anything more as a fan? Like,
Mhm.
that's what we want to see. And it's like, again, these are the people that should be coming back. So as a viewer, I appreciate that, and I'm super inspired.
Yeah, thank you so much. That really does mean a lot to me, and I'm glad that that's what you took away from
Yeah.
that time going back.
Oh yeah, and you crushed. And we were all like, yeah, obviously he was the best and smartest person here, so they got rid of him. That sucks. That's a flaw with the game.
Yes, I
That's
mean,
like that's the thing.
yeah, it really is more of an issue on the Traitors than Survivor. In Survivor, I think you do
Yeah,
have more outs to be able to defend yourself, even though you couldn't get to a situation where everybody's like, okay, well, obviously this person has to go, and I think
they
that you
gotta
sort of like run
go.
into that sort of like more in the end game than in the in the early days of Survivor, but it certainly
Yeah.
is a thing, especially when you get to a small group in the beginning of the game.
Has there ever been, I'm trying to think now, because I think there was like, I would watch, King George play on Australia, and it's
Sure.
like you gotta watch this, where I'm like, everyone is so set that he is going home. And every time they go into the tribal council, I'm like, this girl is not going home today. She's going to stay
Mhm.
another day, and someone else is going home, and somehow George is going to maneuver it out of there. Was there ever a moment with you personally on Survivor, or you watching as a fan, where you were like, I'm certain, like, it's got to be you, but then either you started cooking up the plans, or you started to notice that there was another moment where you're like, oh man, there's actually like another thing going here. Cause that, again, that is like that's
Yeah.
the fun part.
So that is the dream, to be able to do that. So it didn't really happen to me in Survivor. Don't think that the game was fluid enough. But I've told
Yeah.
this a little. This is something that didn't make the edit. And again, that's the thing with like not playing big, is that you don't know what they're going to necessarily show. But in that first episode of the Traitors, where everybody got the casket in their grave, and I was marked for death, and I was basically
Yeah.
looking into the abyss of like, wow, I'm going to be the first person that they get murdered. I came all the way back. It's been 20 years since I came on a show. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to get murdered first. This sucks. What can I do in this spot? And I was the thing that was my greatest thrill, which was something that ultimately didn't end up in the show, was that I was in the car with Ian Terry and Mark Ballas, and I was like, I got it. We're gonna get the traitors to kill Michael Rapaport. And it was something that I felt like was so out of the box of that I've never really seen that in the traitors where faithful is like I know he's a faithful. I know he's not a
Yeah.
traitor. And
Yeah.
if I can expose to everybody that he is so obviously a faithful and a bad faithful that the traitors just take him off the board. Like I thought that was like that'll save us, and instead of him getting banished, could we just establish him as enough of a faithful that the traitors will just kill him tonight? And so I thought that this is the plan. We're gonna go. He's gonna be tired. He's gonna be cranky. He's gonna be. He's
Gonna be
gonna be
eating food off
on
his plate
one.
like this.
Yeah. Let's get back to the castle. Let's talk about how he is really like pissed off. He's coming for whoever said his name and get him worked up to the point where he creates such a distraction that the traitors will just kill him. And then I came back to the castle, and then he did get into a big fight with everybody. And I
Yeah.
really just felt, and I was sitting right there, and I was just so tickled. And it was just such a thrill to be able to. And again, in the storyline, that it came up where that Candace said something to Portia, and Portia was the one that confronted him, and that was the story that they told in the show, which may have been ultimately the bigger reason why he got into this big confrontation. But I felt like that I was fanning the flames, and I went home that night, and I was just like so pleased that I was like, hey, I got dealt bad cards. I played it as best as I could, and I didn't go out like a chump. If this is going to be
No,
how I
you
ultimately.
went out
And
swinging.
I went out swinging, and ultimately the traitors didn't kill Michael Rapaport. Ultimately, Donna Kelsey didn't put him on the list, so it wasn't even a possibility.
I
So
know.
trying to get and again, there's all these things that you don't even know. So that's
I mean,
maybe
and
too much.
also again, brilliant move because that's the thing. So I want to try and make a comparison between the two and ask what you feel is the difference. It feels like, especially early on in Traders, when you have nothing, as soon as people start ganging up on someone, it's almost impossible to defend yourself, and you don't
Mhm.
have the lifelines. I guess this year they had Rob had the sword or whatever he
The
found, but
dagger.
like the dagger of truth or whatever the hell it is, and
Mhm.
like you you once people start ganging up on you, the mob mentality of like, hey, I just don't want it. I think that's where the real Sandra anyone but me starts to kick in. But to anybody, and you pointed it out as clear as day, you're like, guys, if this dude is a traitor, this is the worst game ever being played. Like, this is the worst game of all time. And anyone who knows anything about competition, personal relationships,
Yeah.
any of these shows, which like I don't expect everybody on here to know, but it's like, y'all, you're on the Traitors. You got to know a little bit about this. I'm like,
Yeah.
don't you think this is the most obvious
Well,
play of
yes.
all time?
Yeah, well, so Zach, there's an idea that I have for the traitors, more so than for Survivor, of that somebody like who is willing to be a performer, to be a clown. I do think that there is an intentional Rapaport strategy that somebody
For
could come in
sure.
and come into the traitors, and sure, you could certainly crap out with this strategy, but
Mhm.
until Michael Rapaport got to the point where there was the whole thing with Colton, where people
Yeah,
they just had it
they were just done.
with him. But the traitors were trying to keep him alive. That
I know.
they were trying to drag him as far as they could into the game. And I think
Yeah,
that the intentional Rappaport is a very viable strategy for somebody to come
I like
in with the
patenting it
traitor.
as the intentional Rapaport. I like that
Yes,
patent.
yes. Oh, I've thought
It's true.
about it.
It's totally true. And the thing is, and it sucks because I feel like everybody likes you so much that people would be like, "The fuck's up with Rob? Something's happening here. Like
Mhm.
he's
Yeah.
not being himself right now,
I don't think I
But
could do it. And I don't know if you could win. I think you get to a point where like at some point, like I think you ultimately they don't even let you get to the fire of truth. Eventually people are like, all right, are we really
it's
going to the
just
fire
yeah.
of truth with this guy? And but in terms of if you wanted to dominate the airtime and you wanted to really, make it far enough and sort of like have a permanent shield as a faithful, I think the intentional
Mhm.
Rappaport is interesting.
I think man, I'm gonna start. So this is where the fun part comes with me is like in the dissemination of information, the pipeline of information, the flow. This has probably maybe been the most, besides just seeing the most incredible fun characters. You know, again the coaches. I love Courtney from Heroes Villains. I forget which first was it. China was her first season.
Yes.
Like I love like she's so funny to me and she cracks me up. Like I love these personalities and oh man, I'm like losing the thread on my own thought here. What were we just saying? What were we just saying a second
The
ago?
intentional Rapaport, and then you
The
just brought to
intentional.
Courtney Yates.
Oh my god, I had what I thought was going to be the most poignant thing I was going to say all day. Oh, the pipeline of information, and it feels like what I really love from all of these shows is if you know something that no one else knows, then truthfully, this information will never come out. However, no matter who you tell, it's always going to be kind of like those pinball effects of like, it's going to fill up everyone's bucket. And how do you want that bucket to get filled? If I tell you, who's Rob going to tell? And is it better for these people to hear this information from Rob, or does it damage my game? Or how does that affect and shift the paradigm at all times? Again, going back to that Doctor Strange analogy. And I feel like for us, running a variety show. So I run my variety shows called Stamp Town. And like, we also, work with a bunch of artists and we're all a bunch of very sensitive clowns and cabaret performers and divas and drag queens and dancers and musicians. And you got to be very careful who you tell what and how it goes. And if you want certain, like all of it comes from like the desire to put on the best show. And if you want to layer the jokes and the structures of how you do it, it's like, well, you kind of have to choose how these dominoes are going to fall. And you got to pick each time. I'm like, okay, if I know I tell my friend Corey this thing or Corey goes out here first, that's going to set the tone for these next few people and sort of establish the scene for how this is going to go. But if I don't tell them and I let this happen and I trust maybe they might just pick up on this, like if I give him the flair, then he can come and then someone else might think, oh, this guy's initiating it. And it's kind of like what Christian's doing with Rick right now, where I don't know why Rick decided to take credit for it, but like, hey, you take the credit for this and I can kind of
Yeah.
sit back and I've still got the advantage for this. And that has been like one of the most
Because
fascinating things for me to
I think
enjoy.
Christian is keenly aware, like Rick's alter ego is, I'm the idol guy. I'm the guy that finds idols. So
Yeah.
sure, tell people that I'm finding idols, because that plays into my survivor persona of being the person who's got the nose for the idols. He said it early on. He's like, hey, I love idols.
I'm the idol man.
I'm the idol guy. So sure.
Do you think that's helping him? Or I guess we can pull it back into the personas of the people in this year. Has there been anybody that you were, because again, I know you know all these people personally, so it's got to be fun to know them as individuals and then see them on screen, which is how, again, I feel watching
Yeah.
my friends perform. Like, is there anyone who you're really, really, we don't have to say any of them, be like, oh my God, who's not carrying the weight? I don't want that question. Is there anyone you're really impressed with who you're like, oh, I'm like loving the way they're playing, or I'm really enjoying the change between either their last time they played or one of the other
Yeah.
previous times?
So for me, I think that Genevieve was certainly one of those people where I
Yeah.
thought that Genevieve was somebody who I thought was going to be in a lot of trouble in Survivor
Yeah.
50. And I was really impressed with her, how she came back. And I felt like that she did have a very positive evolution. I felt like that
Oh,
rather
yeah.
than being somebody who was dealing with wounds from her first time, I felt like that she was somebody who was able to this is I feel like to iterate off of taking back the feedback of what she did in 47
Hmm.
and using it to springboard positively and come back as a more polished version of the Genevieve that we saw in Survivor 47. So I was
I
really
totally agree.
enjoying watching that version of her participate, and ultimately she didn't get to come back
No,
and do that.
she's remarkable, and I know she said she doesn't want to do it ever again, but I'm like,
That's what they all
for the love
say.
of God, I know, and I know that part of that is also that's part of the information where it's like, I'll never do this again. So the casting goes, should we ask them? And then they go, we got them, and it ultimately works for everybody. But like,
Yeah.
I would love to
But
see her play again. She's a master.
I also think that part of it is just in the psychology of the
Yeah.
Survivor players. I think that the Survivor players are most threatened by the people who are the most hungry, for the people who really want it. I think you show up on the
Yeah.
beach and it's like, okay, I know how bad they want it. That's scary to me. You sort of like, I think that, and one of the things that I think that, to go look on the other side of the coin about the Aubrey is to watch her is like you look at her and it's like, I don't know, does she? I don't know if she even wants to be here. She doesn't
Yeah.
seem like she's that into it, and I think that that's the type of thing where I'm not as scared about that. Now, listening to Aubrey's interviews, Aubrey, she came so close to winning in Survivor Co. Wrong. Of course, she desperately wants to win, but she doesn't project that. She
No.
projects this vibe of like, I don't know, like,
It's very Eeyore of her, and I think it's
yeah,
really working. And I mean, and again, I wish as a super fan of both her and Genevieve, I wish they would have linked up because I feel like they would have had
yeah.
everything they wanted. You know?
She had such an interesting confessional in the last episode where it was that her idol information was out there. She's like, "So everybody knows that I have an
Yeah.
idol. Cool." Like, this is what she said. And I could just I didn't have the closed captioning on, but I could see it like KEWL was
Yeah.
in my mind how that
Well,
was spelled in the closed captioning.
eh,
Cool.
cool. See, you've got great. Can I say also, may I compliment as a character performer myself? I love all of your voices in person. That you get all of the characters in your face, and you can tell there's a love between you and all of them. And we at our clown school, it's like one of our earlier exercises we would do is we would all mock each other, and it's like to have the fun to make to laugh of your friend and to laugh of to do their ways. Like I love obviously when you do Rob's voice, but even just the Aubrey, you see it in the face there, and it comes through so fun. And that again, those little
Yeah.
moments, those micro things, whether or not I'm picking up on them, that's what I love about the show. Is like, oh, that is so characteristically Aubrey. That is Aubrey. That this is these people.
That's one of the things I've really loved with this is where we really get to know these people. And, I don't mean to mock anybody, but I feel
No,
like that when you have looked at these people for so long, I think that you can sort of like pick up on their essence.
yeah,
And I love it when I can adopt some of the mannerisms of these people because I feel like I feel like I understand them more and where they're coming
of
from, and
course,
it's been so fun to go back and
relatable.
look at this. Yeah,
And then as the fans too watching it, it's like you if you can't latch on to such a strong characteristic of somebody, it's like you probably don't remember them. So if they have all these golden moments, it's like, everybody has, even watching Jeff do his impressions of them, I was like, I like, yeah, I don't need him rapping on every episode. I know he's aware, and I know ultimately he's having fun, and I'm happy that he's having fun. So, hey, let him have some fun. But like that to me, I think shows the strength within the community is like if you ask everybody on that show to do an impression of somebody from that season, everyone's impressions are basically going to all be in the same realm of a Venn diagram, and it's like that is the familiarity that we love. We love, I think, as performers and as viewers, to be able to connect with that, to be able to relate to that thing that we all love, and we're like, you saw that too. You saw them do that. You saw the way she kind of threw it. It's like it came from the jaw all the way out, and her eyes are up like this. And you also see somebody who is it's so beautiful. Again, it comes from that like place of underneath. It's like, what's she going to do? You have two options. You can either be super pissed off at everybody and be upset that everybody knows that you have this, or you can choose to not be upset about it and just go, hey, it is what it is. I've got the skill set to maneuver this. I don't need to waste a single bit of energy convincing anybody there's anything else going on other than what is exactly happening. Here I am. And we love that. We love that honesty, that honest, that like, hey, here's the moment. This is what's happening. We all know. And then we all feel clued in. We all know exactly what's going on. And then you start to root for these people even more. I want her to pull off. Like I was hoping, I didn't want Genevieve to go home, but I was hoping for that kind of justice of like, is she going to get voted off because Aubrey plays an idol on herself? And I'm like,
mhm,
well, that's how you got to, if you're also Genevieve and you're a fan of the show and you're seeing the edit in the season, it's like, well, it's poetic justice to get idled
yeah,
off by the only
Shakespearean.
idol I didn't find.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Shakespearean. And I love that. It's tragic. And you, as a lover of the game, like you, obviously you want these great narratives to play out.
Do you do any impressions of any Survivor players?
God, kind of me and my friend Dylan, my best friend Dylan and I love to watch it. And we love to always kind of like, again, the way we say this, we say laugh of. I don't laugh at you or on you. I laugh of you. And I want people to laugh of me and it
Sure.
comes my other comedy partner, Vigo, he's Norwegian. ESL, and he once said like the audience is not laughing of me tonight, and I was like, ever since that, I was like, okay, laughing of me is my thing, and we like to laugh of Jeff, and every time Jeff, reads the votes, we always like fake read a bunch of votes where it's like no one's understanding it. We'll be like, first vote, steak free. This is not a restaurant. All right, remind you have to vote for people who are in the room. Second vote, and it's like we'll pull up like another friend of ours. He's like, you're not in the game. I need you can't vote for them. And then we like to always bring back like we have a whole large game that we then build where like Rob and Sandra, when they're in there for 39, where Jeff, they're like in the bird cage, and it's like in the middle of the vote reading, it's like Rob always going, hey, pss, 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 Jeff, beer me, Jeff, come on, throw me a beer. And you're like, Rob, you're not in the game, you're not in this season. Next vote, and you're like again, steak free. This is not a restaurant. Just keep doing this over and over. So we love to play these big games on it like this. But the Jeff Beamy from Rob is always one that cracks me up. I don't think this has ever happened. I think I've made this up entirely.
That it's fun to imagine that Boston Rob is giving drink orders to Jeff.
Yeah.
In the middle of tribal council.
Yeah.
From the hidden room.
And he's been there for the last 11 seasons, and nobody knows. He's still up there. Sandra went home. She raised the flag and she went out. She's done a bunch. She went on Australian Survivor. She's been on Traitors. Rob is still in the birdcage there.
Yes. Now, do you know that was invented by Jimmy Fallon?
The Island of the Idols?
Not the concept for the season, but the Robin Sandra booth was a Jimmy Fallon invention.
Damn, I have mixed feelings on him because he's fired a bunch of my friends as writers on the show. But I appreciate his fandom.
Could you imagine it that they got voted out?
I can. I can. And I'm bummed that I was like, they gotta do something about this format.
maybe you'll bring them back as returning players, and they'll come back,
exactly.
and they'll have like a better story arc. Maybe.
I would love that. I mean, look, I'm happy when what I do appreciate about him is that he always gives Survivor, and as many of the people who, the press for Survivor wants to put forward, gives him a slot on the show. And I appreciate that because that's more fun stuff that I get to watch,
Do you have any inventions that you would like to see on Survivor as an innovator?
This is the question that I have been prepared for. And I was like, okay, I have to pitch some like good Survivor themes, like some episode themes or season arcs, like because I miss it. I think one thing that really hindered the new era is the fact that it all feels interchangeable, and that is not a dig at anybody. I love so many of the new era players, but it's just it's tough when you don't have a label to recognize or encapsulate this in. And I also loved in the labels that people would play like the label, that Lord of the Flies element of it, where it's like, if your brain's Braun Beauty, you're going to play Braun, like Scott Pollard's big NBA, I'm going to play it like this, or like, the beauty team's like, fuck it, we're hotter than everybody. So we kind of got this thing. Like, I love all of that. So I missed those, but I don't know if there's an exact invention, but I would love a season called Survivor Secret Friends, where it's like 10 players on each tribe, 8 on each tribe, and one person, someone is best friends with somebody on the other tribe, or they're brothers, or they have a very special secret relationship. It's almost like an incognito blood versus water. And I'm sure this has been said before, but I love the idea of no one knows who that other person could be. And then maybe the larger pull was like everybody except one person knows each other, and they don't know that, but it's almost like a Truman Show within the season.
Okay. So I like that. I think that would be the most fun is that we don't call it that in terms of like, maybe we could call it that after the season is over. But what I like is like people thinking like, hey, I've got the secret advantage. Like what they don't know is that my brother-in-law is on the other tribe. And what they don't know is that actually my au pair is on the other tribe.
Yeah, and like that's actually that's my stepsister. It's like you have all these. I think
you label it just. Somebody will leak that they have a secret relationship, and then the other person will be like, "Oh, should I tell them?" And then it's like, "Wait, hold on. What if everybody has a secret relationship?"
Truly, and then it's like if you and I meet out there, and if let's say you and I were the secret friendship, and we both go out there, and on day one, I'm like, "Dude, can you believe this? Like, are you kidding me? What are the odds?" And you're just, as a viewer, seeing 8 different of those conversations happen. Like, is that not the funniest thing in the world,
Yeah. And then this is something like this will happen in, the international trade, the Traitors UK. There'll be like, oh,
The
okay.
the
Oh,
mother and
okay.
son.
So yeah, but it'll be like, okay, okay, so me and my accountant are on the other tribe. Look at this person and that person. Like they're obviously brothers. And like, but they're not. And
Yeah.
it's like, and then they get
Yeah.
accused. It's like, no, 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 it's not. That's
No,
not
we're
true.
not.
Like,
I don't know this guy. Like
you'll
I'm from
never
Nebraska.
convince me.
That and because I think that's also, I get upset. The only times I ever get bummed out is like, not to be like, oh, I'm Mr. Empath over here. Because I love a good blindside and I love a good backstab too. But I do it happens, I think, more in Traitors than in Survivor. But I do get bummed when people kind of get bullied so hard to a corner that they like submit. And it's like,
Mhm.
that's never fun. I want to see people's backs against the
You need a
wall where they
shot in the
still have that
dark.
fight. Yeah, exactly. You need a shot in the dark in some way of like, what's your opinion on the shot in the dark? Do you like it?
I think it's really good. I think it's a little bit of a convoluted thing that is kind of impractical, but I think it does help preserve the blind side. And I think that ultimately it is a positive. I'm pro shot in the dark.
Yeah. I like the fact that it can be used as a bargaining chip.
Mhm.
And I think you see the way that like it's almost, I think Christian giving it to Ozzy in 2 episodes ago, that is, I think, as well as you can play it as if you played it and it was safe. Like to be able to use it like that to extend trust and or to give trust and extend your life in the game is just as important as if you were to pull a safe on a boat. And so
Mhm.
you then in a way get to get multiple uses out of it besides using it for its proper function. So that again, nice to see. And then I've also equally, again, as the clown lover of the show who loves the moments where it doesn't go well, I've loved, like, I think there was some early 40 seasons where someone like first felt was like, I'm playing it. And it's like, girl, you didn't need to play this. Like
Yeah.
you were fine.
Jamie.
You've actually screwed your
She hit
numbers
it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And you're like, oh, I'm safe. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, you didn't need this.
Yeah. No, I know season 44 actually was the season that featured somebody who you went to high school with, according to
Yes.
our research. And
Yes.
this is when
Yes.
you were a new Survivor fan. What was it like? So that you went to high school with Claire Rafson.
I sure did. Hey, Claire. And I saw Claire last night with Brandon, which is so lovely. Her and my brother are good friends too. It was awesome. Her sis. She has two older sisters who are also, one of them's my age, one of them's in between us. I think she and I are 4 years apart, or maybe I think we were like would have been
Mhm.
freshman and freshman. So I've like known her for a while and known her family for a while. And it was awesome to see. I mean, I'm like, I think I did a triple take where I was like, hold on a second, like I know you. And I did the same thing with Love It. I just like couldn't believe that somebody that I knew in my life was in the show. And, I knew at the time my brother was going to the New York watch parties when she was living in New York when this aired, and like each week, getting together in the bar and having fun. And I was devastated when she left. I was angry. I was angry at the season. And, again, the season gave us some great characters. So I was not ultimately upset overall, but I was bummed out as it was happening because I was like, that's my girl. I want her to keep going.
Yeah. All right. Zach, is there anything
Oh
else in
no,
your
we're at the
Survivor
end.
notebook? It doesn't have to be.
I mean, look, I'll stay and chat with this for you forever. I feel like what I was hoping to come on here was to just let everybody know in this world, hey, I love this so much, and you've got an ally and a friend in me who loves Survivor as much as you guys. And I was hoping to. I had so many questions I wanted to ask you because I mean, I don't get
Fire
many
away.
opportunities.
Fire away.
Um, okay. Do you think? Do you think it should go back to 39 days?
I don't think it has to. I think 39 days is just sort of an arbitrary number that they came up
Yeah.
with back when, okay, every 3 days, 16 people. And so I think that, look, in a perfect world, if they could get it to 30, I think that that's like a nice round
Just a little
number.
bit.
Give
Yeah.
us
A month.
be a little, but I think that some of Survivor is so inflexible of like, no, 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 we said it's 26, it's 26, that's perfect now. Like, why? Why 26? Why is 26 the right number? Could you just say, like, we tried 26, it's a little too short, 39 is too
Yeah.
long. What if we try, like, could we try 30? I do think that as a whole, I understand that there's a lot of different issues at play in terms of the production of the show. But I think that at the same time that they sort of like squeezed the production schedule down to 26 days. They've also extended the episode like run times.
Yeah.
So it's a little watered down in terms of like there's less to pull from. So I think 30 would be great, but I haven't really ever been a big complainer about 26 days.
Yeah. I think the one thing for me is I miss I mean, I guess for me as a viewer, again, I don't wish the elements on anybody,
Mhm.
but watching people start to lose their minds and unravel a little bit more feels
Yeah.
like that was a big part of the earlier iterations of Survivor that like it's not even that you're like, "Oh my god, isn't it fun? This person's going nuts." It's like, that is the reality you have to deal with is, like, to be able to pull it all together, especially at that final tribal council, maybe having had 3 actual rewards throughout the entire season, if you're lucky, 3 rewards worth of food. You're I can only imagine how in some of the earlier versions, like, when you guys are in different terrain, if you're in the Amazon, if you're, wherever the hell you are, like, you gotta really trek for what you need, and I think that part of it is like such a it was like such an obvious undercurrent or undertone to the experience that I feel like gets lost a little bit more. A from a bit less of days, and B like I get, of course, if I was in Fiji and probably had the palace that Jeff has and the setup there, and it's a gorgeous place to be, I wouldn't want to leave either. But I miss that travel
Yeah.
element of it. I miss that cultural element of it so much.
Yeah, I don't complain about that also because I feel like it's again, if it helps keep the show on the air, I understand that,
I agree.
you
I
don't have to
agree.
like start the whole production over in like, let's say we're going to go to some other tropical locale and now like, well, we have all the puzzles are in this other place, it's a whole
Yeah.
different construction issue. So I understand the desire for it, but it's not something that I actually complain about too much.
Well, so this is maybe then another fun thing is like the integrity of like we're kind of going through this right now. We have a huge opportunity. Stamtown has been an underground punk comedy
Sure.
circus alt vaudevillian show for years, and we're about to be on Netflix. And there's a lot of the elements that we didn't necessarily get that we wanted to be able to put on this best show. And at a certain point, it's like, well, if we can't deliver what we want, is it worth doing it?
Mhm.
Even though that's a crazy thing to say. But I'm a passionate artist and this is my life's work and I love this thing. And I'm like, well, is it best to keep it going if it doesn't feel like the right representation or the most authentic representation of the piece? Or do you take the opportunity and hope that you're able to go from there? And so maybe this leads into a survivor of like, is the longevity at the potential risk of quality, if you believe that, worth keeping it alive? My dream is that you keep it alive and you keep the quality high and you keep, I like the fact that you're changing it,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, how long, like for you, because I never want Survivor to end, but I
Yeah.
imagine someday it's going to have to. How much life do you still think it has left? Do you think there's a life beyond
Yeah.
Jeff at some point if he wants to do that? Like,
I do think there's a lot of life left in Survivor. I do think that there is a life beyond Jeff if they've built such an infrastructure there. I think that's part of the reason
of
of like
course.
keeping it in Fiji. It's just very turnkey at this point in time. I think that they could continue to, I think another host could step in and obviously would have big shoes to fill, but I think they could take over for what
Yeah.
Jeff has built. I mean, Jeff kind of has 2 roles though. He's the showrunner and then also
Yeah.
the host of the show. And I think
I
that
get it.
the show that somebody as a different showrunner than Jeff, I think would be like the more interesting thing to try to imagine what that would be like. Cause I think you could take the creative in a lot of different directions. I think that the host, while Jeff would be Survivor in a lot of ways would be unrecognizable without Jeff as the host. I do think that
Of course. Of course.
I think that Jeff might be more likely to step away as the host than as the showrunner. I think that there is still a version of Survivor where Jeff may not necessarily want to be the on-camera face of the show and could be a little bit more like what Mark Burnett was in the early days of the show. And then another
Mhm.
person could be potentially hosting the show with Jeff Probst still involved with it. So I do think that definitely there is a very long shelf life with what Survivor could be. And I think that there's all of these stories that we still want to see from these different players that we're invested in and seeing these Survivor legacies come out. And
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, what I would love for Survivor 50 to be, and I was really apprehensive about the idea of, hey, we're bringing in so many new people, and like there were so many other legends that we didn't get to see. But I
Yeah.
think that what Survivor 50 could be is that a season where we really do pass the torch from one generation of the show to another. And I think that they really did miss that in a lot of ways. And I think that when Survivor is at its best, where we have in, say, heroes versus villains, and Survivor fans versus favorites, where we have the legends, but we're also making the new legends and the
Yeah.
people that there's a passing of the torch. We didn't have that when they didn't bring players back for so long, especially where
I
the last
agree.
returning player season was Winners at War. And we didn't really mint new legends in Winners at War, where it was sort of like, okay, these are already winners, and the winner of the all winner season is somebody who was already kind of a legend. You sort of cemented Tony as a Mount Rushmore player, but you didn't really have like where that some of the new young up and coming winners didn't really become the new legends out of Winners
Yeah.
at War. So we've sort of been missing elevating sort of like the great players into the legends that we had done
I agree.
earlier in the show. And maybe that kind of is what they're doing, where maybe Rizgod is going to play 4 times and is going to be thought of one day like
Probably.
like a Boston Rob type of figure,
Like
where people like
he's on the path.
maybe he, and that has been his story of, is that my story is that I want to become one of the legends. And maybe that they're 5-10 years from now, young players are going to be talking about Rizgod with like this kind of reverence. And
He's
maybe
on the
that is
Traitors. He's giving your children advice on how to play as faithfuls.
and maybe that is how like this next generation of Survivor players is going to be looking at Emily Flippin and Dee and some of these
Yeah.
other players that come out of this, who have now become even Christian and Rick Devens, and are maybe talked about in the way that people are talking about some of the Survivor greats from the last generation. And obviously you still have I think in this last episode you really got that the most with Colby leaving the game, where you had Colby and Coach and Cirie were all celebrated, and then there was Dee as maybe one of the new legends who's kind of being minted out of the season, and Colby went off into the sunset. And I think you
Ugh.
kind of have this like in the MCU, where it's like, okay, the old heroes die, but the new heroes who are going to be fighting in the next wars are also sort of being minted. And maybe I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like the best case scenario for what season 50 turns out to be.
I agree. And it's like, look, I don't want to let go of those people. And, I think maybe had I done it differently, I would have loved to have had like at some point, maybe in the 40s, like a 30s versus 40s
Yeah,
season,
they
or
kind of blew it.
yeah, or even like at 49, like an all-stars, so that we could have seen all-stars rolling into it. And again, these are all things that everyone has, I'm parroting stuff that that everyone here has already
Yeah,
said or discussed
especially
at some
because if
point.
they were going to bring back Rizzo and Savannah anyway, it's like you definitely could have had like a new era all stars and bring
Yeah.
like
And then you
a
get to
few people.
see And then you get to see who are, obviously it's the Jessies and the Carolyns and the Omers and the, folks and the
Mhm.
Brandons and all the other people from the
Sure.
new from the new era that you want to see come back through. And that maybe it's like, yeah, I understand, maybe not for 50, but that does not take away from the fact that you are still awesome and should come back. And then you think about yourself like, oh yeah, who are some of the players that I loved? Like I didn't love their first season, and it did take the second and third seasons to be like, oh yeah, you were right in the casting, and I was wrong. I didn't
Mhm.
quite see this. But I think that's a really, yeah. It's, do you like, because I still, I don't want to let go of these legends. I don't want to. I love all the new people, and I want to prop them up too. But like I don't want to. It's hard for me to let go of some of these people that I care so much about. And I think that's the superpower of the show, is that it runs deep. The fan base of the show and your specific fan base as well are diehards for this. And so that has been like, to see the community that it spawns is so wonderful. And like, yeah, I mean, again, as just a lover of this, like I hope it goes on forever, and I hope that we get to see more people from the past come back and the new eras get uplifted. And hopefully one day my dream would be that you're back on the island and you need a guest host for an episode, and I'll be able to fill in at some point while you're out there, and we get to be like, yeah, Rob's out there right now, and we'll see how it goes. And
A beautiful dream for both of us.
hey,
And I do wonder maybe if there is a way where, people, it was not necessarily received well, the Zach Brown of it all. But I wonder if there
Yeah.
are ways where, you know, there's a point of diminishing returns when you keep bringing the same people back over and over and over again. How
Yeah.
many more times, because could the show bring back, legends and have there still be excitement and novelty? But could you potentially have in season 52, you're going to go to the sanctuary, and at the sanctuary you're going to hang out with Cirie, and then
Yeah, like
everybody's gonna like going
that's what I was hoping.
berserko. And I think that, and the fans, instead of being like, what, why do we have to watch Cirie is gonna cook a meal for them at the sanctuary? I think that people would be excited to hang
I
out
think,
with
look, I mean, that's what
Cirie.
I was hoping 50 would be. I would have rather have seen you out there and Tyson out there and Parvati out there. And, I would have seen Debbie. I would have seen Debbie out there from Karong out there being like, all
Mhm.
right, here's what I did. Don't do this. Or like, when she
Yeah,
had the Cochrane reward, like
yeah.
for the fans, if it's in the hands of the fans, like, again, I'm sure Beast is a great dude and Zach Brown is a nice guy. And I know Fallon is on the way and there's maybe another surprise or two, but like, I don't care. And I like, I want to see you guys. I want to see the people who they give it up to have like, to have you and Jenna and Sandra come out and, you know, either like co-host a challenge or like be a part of a thing where it's like, these new era people, like, the old challenges where they had to, rip the ring out in the water and touch, the pole. It's like, hey, you like both these teams. It's like Rob's in goal on one side and James is in goal on the other side. It's like, you got to get past these people. It's like, that would have been so fun to really
It would have
activate
been a
and like
fun
set the fan base
celebration
ablaze.
to do that, and
Yeah.
they've been averse to that, and maybe they ultimately change their minds as they've seen, like, okay, well, we
I'm
did this.
optimistic.
Yeah, we did this with the Zach Brown types, but what if we did this with the people that we actually want to see? What if we did this with Jen Brown or Nick Brown
Yes, exactly. Or instead of Zach Brown, Zach Zucker. I mean, it's all right there.
or Zach Wertenberger, right?
Zach, exactly. Try and get exactly. There we are.
Yes. Okay. Zach, where can people check out more of your work and get ready for the
Yes.
the the Zach Zucker era?
Oh God, please. I hope my Zach Zucker era is just starting. And everyone's on the tribe. I have, I've got stuff all over the internet, for my, under my own name and under Stamp Town. I have an alter ego, Jack Tucker, we talked about. We're going to be releasing a special soon for that on YouTube, I believe, unless someone decides to buy it. And if anyone from Netflix and HBO is listening, we'd love for you guys to buy this for us.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I am going to be taping a Netflix special May 8th and 9th in LA. If you guys are in town, come to the Montalban Theater. There's a saying in the biz, and that saying is there are still a lot of tickets to sell. So come on down. I would love to
Classic.
have, yeah, classic, classic. The tickets are not selling, is what they usually say, but I'm trying my own spin on it.
Mhm.
But we have these great tapings, and it'll hopefully end up on Netflix in the summer. And if it does,
How cool is
I
that?
would. It's crazy. It's been like a lifelong dream of mine for about 14 years. The idea of this, and to be able to get there, it's overwhelming. It's
Mhm.
humbling. It's exciting. It's everything I thought and nothing I ever expected. It's the hardest thing that's ever happened to me. Where some days I feel absolutely crushed and paralyzed by it, and other days I'm like, I got this. I got this.
Uh,
I've been on exile in my own mind, and now I'm back and I'm returning and I'm coach walking into
yes,
the
the
meetings.
Tidewalker
Yeah, I'm tired. Oh, God. Okay, another dream of mine to get a nickname from him.
nickname from
It's if I can
Coach.
get a nickname from Coach, I'll feel good.
I think you'd
But yeah, and
probably
then
get one on Cameo if the price is right.
look, and I'm hoping to go through the Cameo Life version where I don't have to pay the coach
Mhm.
fee for a
Yes.
nickname.
Yeah.
But then
Well,
yeah, we're doing shows in New Zealand and we're doing shows in Edinburgh. We're in New York all the
wow.
time, wherever you are. Yeah, we're all over the place. I would, again, if we're ever in the same city. I missed you at South by Southwest last year.
Yes.
This is one nerdy confession on my end. I was there in 23, and then I saw you were there in 24. And look, there's new bookers on the comedy side, so this is no shade to the new bookers. But the old bookers didn't quite pay the rate that we needed. And when I saw you were there, I was almost like,
Mm,
all right, should we go? Like
mhm.
I got to meet Rob and I got to invite him to the show. But what if it
Yeah.
stinks and it's not the version I want? And so we ended up not going. But we were close. You were the
Yes.
deciding factor for us.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we have linked up now. I look
Me
forward
too.
to seeing the show whenever I get the chance to.
I would love
Congratulations
that.
on all your success. Your energy is infectious and your
Oh,
love of
God.
Survivor is palpable. And really, your stand up is so fun. And
Oh,
it's like nothing else out there right now. So, congratulations to you. It is really so nice to talk to such a creative person.
man, that means the world. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you for bringing people like me on this and all the other amazing comics and other comedians you brought on. Please keep doing that. And anytime you need me for anything, please consider me in the stable from now on.
What do you wanna do? You wanna you wanna fill in, on a podcast? What do you wanna
I'll
interview
come in
somebody?
anytime.
Do you wanna do the
I'll
know-it-alls
interview
with
people.
Steven? Yeah,
Of course, I would love to do the know-it-alls with you guys. I mean, if you ever just like, hey, we're bringing in, we have this funny guy that we like, and we're gonna see if he has anything fun to add. Like, I'll hop in on anything. I can't express that enough. And use me at your disposal. Use me
okay.
at your will. I am of service of the RHAP network.
Alright, listen, that is great to know, and we'll figure something out, okay? Alright, thank you so much, Zach, and, of course,
Thank
we'll
you,
be
Rob.
back at it for the next episode of Survivor Know-It-Alls coming up to talk about what's happening at the Final 14. We'll find out on Wednesday night. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye. This is RHAP. We know reality TV.